Baconators, mount up. What's up? It's Rob Cressy, founder of Bacon Sports, and it's time for episode 129 of the Bacon Sports Podcast. Joining me from Covers.com, industry insider, Jason Logan. Jason, who's your hashtag random athlete of the day?
Well, we have conference championships coming up, so it kind of harkened back to past conference championships that I loved. Larry Brown, corner for my Dallas Cowboys, Super Bowl 30 MVP. He had a huge pick against Brett Favre in that, I believe it was the 95-96 conference championship. Kind of clinched it for Dallas, and then they went on to roll. So yeah, that's my hashtag random athlete, my man Larry Brown, who actually, according to Wikipedia, guest starred as himself on Married with Children. So
nice, big shout out to that. That's actually a low blow on my end because Larry Brown, one of my least favorite players ever. Thank you very much, Neil O'Donnell, for making his career.
That's right. Went on and beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl.
For me, my hashtag random athlete of the day is former Steelers running back Eric Pegram. You gave me that inspiration after mentioning Larry Brown. I was like, well, let's keep that matchup going. I don't even know if Eric Pegram was in that game, but that's who I am rolling with. So on today's show, what we are dishing about is the two upcoming NFL games for championship weekend, as well as we're going to dish about the Super Bowl MVP odds. So let's start out with that. So Jason, you sent over the list of MVP odds as of right now. Tom Brady, the favorite at plus 225. Cam Newton, second at plus 300. Carson Palmer, plus 400. And then Peyton Manning at plus 500. But we want to talk about some of the value that we see out there. And I'll let you go first. I also came up with my list based on what you sent out.
Sure. Over the past, 49 Super Bowls now, QB has won 27 times, a running back has won 7 times, a wide receiver has won 6 times, defensive player 9 times, and a kicker just 1 time. 2 years ago, was it Malcolm Smith? Am I getting the name right?
Yeah, I think so.
One for Seattle, defensive player. But on this list right now, I didn't see any defensive players. It's all offensive players. So you do have the value, of course, with a QB. If they have a big game, even if a wide receiver has a big game, the quarterback generally gets the lean when it comes to MVP odds. But I mean, you want to look. The one place that I looked was the Arizona Cardinals. It seems like every week another receiver was having a big game for them. So you got guys like John Brown and Michael Floyd, who, are Michael Floyd's at plus 5,000, John Brown's at plus 7,500. So these guys are paying out big, and we've seen them have monster games out of nowhere. And, in the Super Bowl, the matchup is so tight and so close, and they know each other so well because they've had, 2 weeks to prepare. And oftentimes it's that guy that, sneaks out and has a big game. Who was the fellow there for last year for Seattle? Didn't do much all year and then had a huge...
Who, Bobby Wagner?
No, receiver.
Oh, I don't even remember his name because I don't even know if he's on the team.
I can't remember anyway, right? But he all of a sudden he had this amazing game out of nowhere. So that's kind of where I'm looking for value right now. And with Arizona, they've shown that capability where a guy can step up, and Carson Palmer will throw to the guy who's open. He's not just focused on his favorite targets.
Yeah, that's exactly where my head went as well. John Brown at plus 7,500. Larry Fitzgerald at plus 2,000. Obviously, you can see, look what he did last week with that amazing run. We also saw what he did in the Super Bowl with Kurt Warner. But as you said, the way that they spread it around, all of those guys are getting anywhere between 8 and 12 targets, with Fitz somehow ending up on the higher end of those. But we've seen Michael Floyd had 2 touchdowns a week or 2 ago. John Brown, certainly, he's giving like the 8 for 90, and you can see them doing something. Some of the other ones that stood out to me, Gronk at plus 1,000, and the narrative with that would be a double-digit Gronk touchdown game. In order for Brady to not get it, you'd probably have to throw in a turnover or 2, because I think, as you had mentioned, the narrative is very natural. If Brady goes 285, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, chances are it's him. But Gronk does have the cachet and the ability to give you the multiple scores there. Greg Olsen at plus 4,000. I really like that in the event that Cam Newton, oftentimes, like we saw against Seattle last week, he can go a game without throwing 30 times. He could have 151 with a touchdown. Obviously, Greg Olsen would need much bigger numbers for that, but the number one wide receiver there, someone on the defense for the Broncos. I'm not very high on the Broncos' chances, but if I had to create a narrative where how would the Broncos win the Super Bowl, I believe it would be on the heels of their defense. And then lastly, a roulette chip, Ted Ginn at plus 10,000. He's just as likely to get 0 receptions as he is to win the MVP of the Super Bowl. I like the big playability because we've seen this year that Ted Ginn can go 10 targets, 0 targets, 12 targets, and he can give you one of those 4 for 180 with 2 touchdown games. So looking roulette chip, that's where I'm at.
That's right. If he has his Butterfingers on, then you don't know. This guy has been dropping passes all year. Another one that I looked at that is just kind of a stab in the dark is Chris Johnson at plus 10,000. He's been out, but when he was in, I mean, he was the workhorse. He was the wheels behind this offense, behind Adrian Peterson for most of the year as far as rushing yards. There's a slim chance that he comes back. And if he's healthy and ready to go, I mean, why not jump back on that bus?
Right. I like it. And for all of you listening, let us know who you would like for your Super Bowl MVP odds as of right now in the championship week. Hit me up at Bacon Sports.
You know what I didn't see, and I was looking down the list. There's no Osweiler.
Oh, ooh.
Say Manning gets hurt. Say Manning has a bad game, and all of a sudden it's Brock time. Maybe there's I didn't see a field prop there, but as we get down to our final two, the matchups and the player odds will get condensed, and maybe there'll be some Osweiler odds out there.
I like where your head is at. So let's transition to the games this weekend. Patriots favored by 3 on the road over Denver, over under 44.5. What I'm seeing, depending on your book, the Patriots is you got to give a little bit more juice on that. I think the Patriots are going to be overwhelming favorites because the way Peyton Manning has played, or a lack thereof, I don't believe there's a lot of confidence. Denver did already beat the Patriots once this year with Brock Osweiler. Broncos, one of the best defenses in the NFL. My initial reaction, or the first thing that I would think is, look at the quarterbacks, look at the coaches. Tom Brady, I like him significantly better than Peyton Manning. And I was thinking yesterday, am I ready to say that Gary Kubiak is a Super Bowl winning coach? I don't believe so. But the problem being is everybody is going to be on the Patriots side, even though I feel in my bones, man, I want to back Tom Brady. The value side of me, the little alert is going off in my head saying, wait a second, this doesn't mean the Broncos have to win the game. All this means is they've got to keep it within a field goal, even if it's late backdoor, like we saw with the Steelers last week, where they got that cheap field goal late to make it 7. So where's your head at on this?
Looking at the matchup wise, I think they want to take the pressure off Peyton Manning, and they want to run the ball against the Pats in the regular season. They were able to establish that ground game, and with Hillman and Anderson, that one, it chews up clock, so it takes the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. And 2, it limits any pass rusher or any pressure really on Peyton Manning. He can become a game manager. And, maybe he is just a glorified game manager at this point. So that's kind of where I see the Broncos game plan for that. As far as the odds go, odds makers really want to stay at 3. There are a few places that went to 3.5, and it did not last long. The second it went to 3.5, you saw sharps buy back. Earlier in the week, you could have got Denver +3 even money. So the one thing to watch with this is really watch the juice on this, because like I said, they don't want to come off the 3, but it's going to be all public money on New England. And the sharps are kind of picking their spots. Every time they see good value pop up, whether that is a half-point hook or whether that is the juice going up to a favorable value, they're looking to pull the trigger on Denver. Like I said, as the tourists roll into Vegas and as the public guys wake up and log on to their accounts, you're going to see more New England money. They don't want to go to 3. It's 3.5, but you may see it, and you may even see a couple 4s pop up if it gets out of hand. But I think you're going to see, like you said, it's not so much a play on the Broncos as it is a play on value. And if you can get that half-point hook or a nice, some nice vig there, then do that. Pull the trigger on them. But like I said, it's keep an eye on that juice and see where the line is going. You can really monitor if they're going to go to 3.5 by the way that they're adjusting the vig.
I like to say you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable in betting sometimes because that's where the value is going to be. Worth noting, CJ Anderson's best game this season came against New England, had a monster game there. Over under 44.5. A lot of people, they do not like rooting for the under because who wants to watch this game and be like, I'm ready for no points at all? But we do have a very good Broncos defense, and I actually like the Patriots defense, who's probably better in real life than the numbers indicate there. As we've said, if the Broncos are going to win this game, it's likely going to be on the ground game. On the flip side, I see the Patriots being a little bit more pass heavy, though Bill Belichick, who am I to say, he could just change everything and be like, this is going to be a Steven Jackson game out of nowhere. James White, receiver out of the backfield. The Broncos are not very good at stopping running backs out of the backfield from receiving games. So I can see some James White action here. Any thoughts on the over-under?
Kind of a cool trend. We had our guys at the Harvard Sports Analysis Collective run which quarterback, of course, this is the Manning-Brady Bowl, which quarterback has been the more profitable for football bettors. And when we kind of looked at their one-on-one matchups, 11 of their 16 matchups have gone over the total. And that's a 69% over winner. However, in their 4 matchups in the postseason, only 1 has gone over the total. So if this is a different Brady Manning Bowl than past years. Manning's not quite there, but if you like to follow those historic trends, there's some pretty substantial numbers right there.
All right, moving over to the other game. Carolina Panthers favored by 3 over the Cardinals. Once again, looks like you're laying some extra juice over under 48. And this one for me is a perception issue. So I liked Carolina last week against Seattle from the eye test. I thought that they were a better team. Everyone liked Arizona as a whole. They didn't end up covering last week, but what really worried me was Carson Palmer did everything in his power to try and give that game away. Once again, if I'm looking at the quarterbacks here, I feel significantly more comfortable with Cam Newton because let's call worst case scenario happens. Cam Newton can at least try and salvage something with his legs. But Carson Palmer, I was legitimately worried he was going to throw another red zone interception there. So that's my initial skepticism for betting on the Cardinals. But once again, everybody's going to be on Carolina, and I'm just not sure how I'm going to take the Cardinals. I want to bet Carolina, but once again, it's saying, hey, before this week, Arizona was thought of neck and neck as Carolina. So we've had a perception issue just based on last week's game, Carolina's first half. I don't really take much credence in the second half. They're just trying to hang on to win. Whereas Arizona, it was an up and down situation for them.
One thing that kind of jumped out to me, and you look at this game, and Carolina is a 3-point home favorite. And predominantly, it's been Carolina money coming in earlier in the week and heading towards the weekend. It's been really all Carolina money. There's been a few, from talking to sportsbooks, a few respected bettors that have come in and taken Arizona +3. But it's been a lot of Carolina money. One thing that kind of caught me off guard is you see Carolina as a favorite in this game, mainly because they're at home. But then looking at the early Super Bowl odds, Arizona versus New England is -1 for New England. New England's a 1-point favorite. Carolina versus New England. Carolina is a 1.5-point underdog. So while there's that even thing, they see Arizona as maybe the better team. Now, of course, this can differ from book to book because of liability on futures and what have you. But that was one thing that kind of caught my eye. I was like, oh, they're kind of giving Arizona a better shot. However, they are an underdog in this game. Not 2.5, but the solid 3. One thing I looked at in my weekly mismatches column this week is coming out of that NFC divisional round game, there was a lot of complaints about the surface and the playing conditions at Bank of America Field. The field was it was heavily used. There were two Panthers games there. The Belk Bowl was there on December 30th. And then the week leading up to the game and the day of the game, there was a lot of rain and snow and cold. So the field was really sloppy, and we saw players slipping around and complaining about it and changing their cleats. And it was kind of a narrative after the game of, maybe it was sour grapes from the Seahawks, but it was kind of a big talking point. And this week, leading up to it, in Carolina, the forecast is calling for snow and ice and rain. Game day looks good, but the days leading up to it are going to be, those similar conditions where it was soggy. And this is an Arizona team that really, really relies on its speed on both sides of the field, but mainly on defense. They're an aggressive team that like the blitz, that like to throw a lot at them. And whenever we see teams in these kind of slick field conditions, whether it be a place like Bank of America Stadium where it's muddy and mucky, or in bad snow and ice, people tend to lean towards the under, thinking that bad field conditions, they won't be able to pick up yards. But it really gives the advantage to the offense, because if I'm running with the ball and Rob, you're trying to tackle me, I know where I'm going. You don't know where I'm going. So, I mean, I just kind of have to make one quick move, and you're slipping, sliding on banana peels. So, especially with a quarterback like Cam Newton, who's very elusive, and if things do break down, he might be able to break off some huge yardage. And now that they got Jonathan Stewart back too, I mean, he's a guy that he really transforms this team and gives them a good edge too. So that's one thing that I looked at is how well Arizona's, how slow will they get? How much will that field kind of put the brakes on them? And, it works both ways because both teams have to play on it. But I think it will impact Arizona a little more than it would impact Carolina.
And even more so for the wide receivers. Wide receivers know what routes they're running, and Arizona being very wide receiver heavy. And you look at the matchup of the two offenses, and I would certainly rather have Arizona's offense, the balance of David Johnson, the three wide receivers, and Carson Palmer versus Carolina, who is untraditionally doing it. They're one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL, but you look around and you're like, there's Greg Olsen, Jonathan Stewart, and Cam, but what else there? But I think we're past the narrative of saying, is this Carolina offense real? Because they find a way to make it happen. This is very similar to Cam and Auburn. Cam is the man, and he's making it happen.
Yeah, he's just such a dangerous piece that defenses really just have to guess what's going to happen, and if you guess wrong, it's, he's going to burn you. One neat thing that playing into that bad field conditions and talking about the over, this one opened as low as 47, and as you said, it's up to 48. There hasn't been a whole lot of sharp money really make a statement or make an opinion bet, but that is the one thing. The over has been the sharp play, or at least the most predominant sharp play so far as we get towards the weekend.
And wouldn't sharps typically wait, if they were going to be going the under, until closer to game time to hopefully get more value, knowing that the public is more likely to drive that over under in either of those games up higher?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you get to these championship games because the lines are so good, they're so tight, and odds makers are not willing to move as much because of the amount of action. They don't want to all of a sudden move early and then all of a sudden get middle. And we'll get to that as Super Bowl rolls around, because that's even more important. But if you're looking to kind of hold off on it and see what happens. I mean, I look at them and I think, were they 1-2 on offense this year?
I'm not sure, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
They were up there. They're really offensive powered teams, but I kind of still view them as defensive powers and teams that are very disruptive teams that thrive on the turnovers and stuff like that, and that'll take points off the board.
Certainly. So, Jason, what's cooking over at Covers this weekend?
Well, it's Championship Sunday. It's pretty much the second biggest betting weekend behind Super Bowl and maybe those opening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of March Madness. This is a huge week. So a lot of NFL content. I have my mismatches column up. I have my muff punt column coming. We have a couple of cool analytic looks at number 1 versus number 2 seeds, which we have in both conference championships. That's from the Harvard Sports Analysis Collective. They also did our Manning versus Brady breakdown. But there's NBA and college, so we're trying to keep up with that stuff as well too. So if you're betting sports this weekend, come to Covers. Follow us on Twitter. We'll have line moves, injury updates, weather updates, pretty much anything sports betting related. Aussie Open's going on. Follow us on Twitter for all that information, and it's free. Covers editorial, all of our stats and matchups, all those numbers and trends, free. So come on by, check us out.
Awesome, man. As always, thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we will talk again before the Super Bowl, giving everybody the inside look on what's going on there.
Yeah, yes, sir. Love it.
All right, cheers, man.